My name is Mike. I'm 30 years old and work in HR. I work at the head office of a major mass retailer that has many stores across the country, so I'm very busy every day. I've been married to my wife Sylvia for 5 years. She's 2 years younger than me. We met when we first graduated and started working at one of my company's stores. I was the one who showed her the ropes at work. When she had finished her training a month after joining the company, Sylvia suggested we exchange phone numbers. I thought she was cute, so didn't give it much thought and gave Sylvia my phone number. Even though I didn't realize it then, that was the moment that changed my life forever. Right after we exchanged phone numbers, Sylvia began strongly coming on to me. I was older than her and hadn't thought about having a relationship with her until then, but she had a bit of a pushy personality. She bridged the gap between us and we began dating in no time. After 1 year of dating, we got married. I work for the company's main office, so weekends and holidays are my days off. But since Sylvia worked for one of our stores, weekends and holidays were her busiest days. Our days off would line up a few times a month, and when they did, we would always go out somewhere or enjoy making dinner at home together. Sylvia was always very busy at her store, but her sales performance wasn't good. Our company didn't have very strict quotas or anything, but we had general expectations for our salespeople. 3 years after joining the company, Sylvia hadn't met her quotas even once. Apart from that, at her store, Sylvia was considered the worst among all the employees there. Because of that, since joining the company, Sylvia's salary didn't go up at all. Working at a main office must be nice. You sit at a desk all day and get a good salary. You exploit the bottom of the barrel people like us to get raises and promotions for yourselves, don't you? She would attack me like that sometimes. It was true that most of my job was desk work, but I was in HR, so I would also have to train employees, like how I trained Sylvia. I also had to recruit people and conduct interviews. I definitely did some running around. I tried to explain that to Sylvia, but she didn't listen at all. Ultimately, after 3 years and a bit, Sylvia couldn't deal with the company expectations anymore, and she quit. But she didn't discuss this with me at all. I found out that Sylvia had submitted a resignation letter from my colleague in HR. She was my wife, but she didn't talk to me about it. I couldn't hold in my anger. "Why did you quit without telling me?" I asked her in a strong voice, but she just let out a deep sigh. "I was tired of being used, so I quit." I was sick of her self-centered way of thinking. She continued, "Actually, I'm thinking of becoming a YouTuber. If I do that, no one will use me anymore, and I think it'll suit me, so please support me." Becoming famous enough on YouTube to make money? Out of all the people who have YouTube channels, only a small fraction of them can actually make a living off of that. Sylvia should know that. When she decided to become a YouTuber, Sylvia became very energetic every day. Since she quit her job, she started doing housework during the week. "Until I make money from YouTube, I'll be relying on the money you earn, so leave the housework to me." She took initiative and did most of the chores, while I would just have to do a bit of cleaning and laundry on the weekend. Sylvia also began cooking all of our meals. She said that since she quit her job, cooking had become a hobby of hers. Until then, Sylvia had never cooked for us. So being able to come home with dinner was ready and waiting was refreshing. Being able to eat homemade dinner as soon as you get home, I realized how happy that could make me. At first, she would make mistakes, like burning hamburgers or overcooking pasta, but Sylvia never got discouraged and she continued to cook every day. I thought it was cute watching her try so hard. But when she learned to cook better, all the food she cooked began tasting strangely. In the past, even if she overcooked her food a bit, it was still tasty. Has she gotten exhausted from cooking? The taste is strange. She must be tired. When I'd eat, I'd get sleepy. Recently, as soon as I'd finish eating, I'd get sleepy and want to go to bed. I found it a bit strange, so I brought it up to Sylvia lightly, but she lashed out at me. "What? Are you trying to say I'm drugging your food?" Sylvia suddenly got into a terrible mood, panicking. I told her that's not it. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm really grateful that you've been cooking. Maybe I'm just tired these days." "Yeah, you're overworking yourself." Sylvia's mood improved and I was relieved, but something was bothering me. The next day, when I was eating lunch at my company's canteen with my colleague and friend Bobby, I brought up what was happening at home. Recently, I get super tired as soon as I eat dinner. When I first brought it up, Bobby also said, "You've been working really hard these days, so aren't you just tired out from that?" Bobby seemed concerned about me, but when he heard what I said next, his attitude changed. I tried talking to Sylvia about it yesterday, and she got mad and asked me if I was accusing her of drugging my food. Huh? What the? All you said is you were getting sleepy and that's how she replied? Bobby's face looked angry. Really? Then, in that case, could she actually be putting something in your food? Is the taste normal? Bobby asked me. Exactly what I had been thinking. Around the time I started getting tired, the taste of Sylvia's food changed. Something tastes really weird. Recently, Sylvia has also been obsessive about getting me to take baths after dinner. Bobby replied, Isn't that all a bit strange? Next time you feel sleepy, don't take a bath. Bobby was concerned about me. From then I tried taking showers before dinner, but Sylvia wouldn't let me. Why? I put effort into making sure dinner is ready so that you can eat as soon as you get home, but you're trying to take a shower first, is what she'd say. So I had no choice but to eat dinner as soon as I got home every day. It was Friday night. I had plans to hang out with Bobby the next day. Sylvia had been recording videos for YouTube the whole day, and it didn't seem like she would come home until late at night. Sylvia had been out since the morning, so I thought I would start preparing a light dinner for us. But she had prepared dinner for us in advance. That was fancier than usual. Steak with a creamy garlic sauce, minestrone soup, and so on. All foods with very rich flavors. But no matter how strong the flavors were, they couldn't hide a strong bitter taste in all the food. As I was eating, I began to sob. Sylvia heard me and ran over. What? Is the food gross? Are you trying to make me feel bad? Sylvia looked at me grumpily, and I did my best to finish all my food. I managed to eat everything, but then I suddenly felt sick. Sylvia looked satisfied with herself. She then began urging me to take a bath. At that moment, I remembered what Bobby had said to me before. Next time you feel sleepy, don't take a bath. I nodded to Sylvia, and then I went into our bedroom, changed clothes, and crashed into bed. It was still only 8 p.m., so it wasn't normal for me to be this sleepy. I thought I should talk to Bobby about it, and I closed my eyes. When I woke up the next day, it was already 10 a.m. My eyelids felt heavy, but I was supposed to meet Bobby at 11 a.m., so I rushed to get ready. When I woke up, Sylvia was already out of the house. After doing the bare minimum to prepare myself, I left to go meet Bobby. Bobby was already waiting for me. After meeting up, we headed towards the cafe we planned to eat at, and suddenly my mind went blank. The next time I opened my eyes, what I saw was a white ceiling I didn't recognize, and Bobby sitting next to me with a worried expression on his face. I started trying to get up, and Bobby realized I had regained consciousness. Thank God, he said, and called for a nurse. According to Bobby, I collapsed right as we were about to enter the cafe. I suddenly had stopped talking, and when he turned around, he saw me on the floor. He quickly called an ambulance. A doctor and nurse came to my hospital room and explained what had happened. I thought that maybe it was from overexhaustion, but hearing what the doctor said took my breath away. Mike, we found traces of a huge amount of sleeping pills in your body. What? Sleeping pills? I had no recollection of taking any medication for sleeping. In my 30 years of life, I had never bought or taken any. Could you have mistakenly taken them, thinking they were something else? The doctor asked me, but all I could do was shake my head. In the meantime, the doctor decided it would be best for me to sleep in the hospital that night so they could observe my condition. When the paramedics first came to pick me up and asked Bobby what had happened, he told them, It's possible that his wife gave him sleeping pills, so they tested my blood for drugs as soon as I got to the hospital. The hospital had called Sylvia, and she showed up in my room a bit later. What? I heard you had collapsed, but looking at you now, you seem fine. Sylvia didn't appear worried at all. She seemed to say she wished she hadn't come. Bobby heard what she said and glared at her frighteningly. Hey, how can you act like that after your husband collapsed? Sylvia asked. Who the hell is this guy? With an annoyed look on her face. I explained to Sylvia, This is my friend Bobby, who I was supposed to hang out with today. I meet up with him often. She finally remembers who Bobby was. Ah, your friend. Then I'll leave him to take care of you and head off, she said. As Sylvia was walking out of my hospital room, she stopped. Ah, right. I will be doing an overnight shoot tomorrow. When you get discharged, I won't be at home. Do your best on your own, she said. I was disgusted by Sylvia's attitude, and so was Bobby. What the? When someone's husband is hospitalized, shouldn't they prioritize that over work? Bobby said angrily. I'm going to get something to drink, Bobby said and stomped off to the hospital store. There was only one conclusion I could reach about the sleeping pills they found in my body. Sylvia must have drugged the food she cooked for me, but I didn't have proof. I felt scared to be with Sylvia, so I wanted to divorce her. But if she really had drugged me, I couldn't leave things like this. There was bound to be evidence somewhere at home. I thought to myself as I laid in my hospital bed. The door to my room suddenly opened with a huge bang. Shocked, I looked at the door and saw Bobby standing there holding out his phone. You scared me. Why are you in such a rush? In between breaths, Bobby said, Listen to this. And he handed me his phone. Wondering why he was so panicked, I listened to the voice that was recorded on his phone. Hey, how is Mike? Is it time to prepare his funeral? It was the voice of a young man. Next, I heard Sylvia's voice. No, he was fine. I put so many pills in his food, but it didn't go as planned. If he had taken a bath as I had told him to, he definitely would have drowned. The sleeping pills I gave you helped, right? No, they found out about them, so I can't use them anymore. How can I get his life insurance? Their conversation and laughter continued on. It was a voice I had heard before. Look, I took photos. That rumor that he hits on people's wives was true. In the photo, Bobby showed me one of Bobby's and I's juniors from work. His name is Georgie. Having heard Georgie and Sylvia's conversation, my anger at Sylvia grew more and more. The two of them had that conversation in the waiting room on the first floor of the hospital. Bobby sent me the recording he had made. The next day, he was discharged, and I went to a private investigator's office. A few days later, the detective reported back to me. Georgie and Sylvia were having an affair. I had photos of them going to Georgie's house and entering hotels together. I couldn't believe that Sylvia was receiving the sleeping pills she put in my food from Georgie. I spoke to a lawyer and decided to sue Sylvia and Georgie for compensation. I sent all the documents and proof to both of their families' houses. Since there had been a risk that I could lose my life, I decided to claim $23,000 from each of them for emotional distress. I told Sylvia that I was going to my parents' house, and I didn't return to our home for a while. I was worried she might try and do something to me again. I explained everything to my parents, and they told me there was no way I could return to Sylvia, and told me to divorce her immediately. I stayed at my parents' home for a while. Sylvia was carefree and just told me to rest. Some time passed. She must have received all the documents from my lawyer at her parents' house because she left me a terrifying voicemail while I was at work. When I finished work, she called me again. When I picked up the phone, her voice shocked me so much I nearly dropped my phone. Hey, what's the meaning of this? Divorce and monetary compensation? You haven't told me anything about this. Why was she surprised? Exactly as it says, those are my conditions so that I don't report you to the police. Don't you think I'm being really nice? Sylvia told me she wouldn't divorce me, but I began to explain. As a side note, I decided not to report Sylvia to the police when my lawyer told me how much money I could claim from her as compensation. If you're gone, I'll be broke. What will I do? I won't have your life insurance either. If you divorce me, I won't be able to survive. All she said were self-centered things like that. I can't live with someone who's trying to kill me. I told her, but Sylvia repeated that she won't divorce me. If you have anything more to say, talk to my lawyer, I said, hung up, and blocked her number. Georgie began skipping work without notice. I had also told Georgia that I wouldn't report him to the police in exchange for monetary compensation. His parents were incredibly shocked and they contacted my lawyer. They told my lawyer they would pay immediately. Knowing that their son had tried to take someone's life, they eventually forced him to quit his job. They took the matters into their own hands. Afterwards, I heard that Sylvia's parents took Sylvia to the police. They sent the compensation I requested to my lawyer in a single payment, as well as filled out Sylvia's portions of the divorce papers. They made sure that Sylvia would take responsibility for what she had done. My in-laws sent me a very apologetic letter as well. In the letter, they wrote that Sylvia had done something horrible and that they were incredibly sorry. They said they would definitely punish her and make sure that she pays them back for the compensation they were sending me. My in-laws were very upright people, so it was a shame that I had to cut ties with them because of this. According to rumors I heard later, when Sylvia turned herself into the police, she told them about Georgie. Since I hadn't reported him, I didn't think it would get to that, but I felt refreshed. After my condition improved, Bobby and I began hanging out more often, and I began living a very fun life. I'm so grateful to Bobby for everything. I hope that one day I can support him the way he supported me.